National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Hello there, a very good evening and a warm welcome to National News Broadcast. I'm Vidushni Sadish Kumar, together with Clifford Richards.
NATO warns that Russia could use chemical weapons. Bus fares will be amended from midnight tomorrow. The finance minister will visit India next week. Several steps have been taken to strengthen the economy. Himurathava and Madru reservoirs overflow. Saudi Arabia executes 81 at once.
Well, those are our main headlines for today, and moving on to the local stories. Before moving on to the local story, I think we have more updates with regards to the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Well, today is the 18th day of the conflict, and we have been seeing tensions between both the countries for the past 18 days, and still things haven't been eased out. Even though Ukraine says that they are happy to come into an agreement, Russia is not ready to do that. Now, with regards to this conflict, we have also seen that there have been many economic downturns that has happened throughout the global market, and the downturn has been majorly affected by so many countries, including Sri Lanka, isn't it, Clifford? I think you have more updates with regards to that.
Vidushni. Now, you mentioned 18 days. Now, that's quite a long time for a conflict or a war. And the saddest part is that the innocent civilians are getting sandwiched between or getting entangled in the crossfire. And talking of the civilians, at least 35 people, they say, were killed and 134 wounded in a Russian airstrike on a large Ukrainian military base near the Polish border today. Well, the assault brought the war to within 25 kilometers of the border with Poland, as Moscow considers foreign shipments of military equipment to Ukraine to be legitimate targets.
More than 30 Russian cruise missiles targeted the sprawling training facility. The United States and NATO regularly deploy military personnel to the range, also known as the International Peacekeeping and Security Center, to train Ukrainian army. The facility has also hosted international NATO drills. The base has become a crucial logistics hub and training center since Russia's invasion began 18 days before. Air raid sirens have been sounded in several parts of Ukraine. Alarms were sounded in Zhytomyr west of the capital Kyiv, as well as in the Ternopil, Rivne and Ivano-Frankivsk regions in the west. Sirens have also gone off in the Volyn region in the northwest and Kramatorsk in eastern Ukraine. Russian fighters also fired at the airport in Ivano-Frankivsk, a city in western Ukraine about 5 miles from Ukraine's border with Slovakia and Hungary. People in Mariupol are said to be enduring freezing temperatures with no power and little food and water as Russian troops make gains in taking the city. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky suggested on Saturday that negotiations between Ukraine and Russia to end the war could be held in Jerusalem. Ukrainian President Zelensky said that 1,300 Ukrainian troops have died in the conflict so far. He insisted that Russian losses were far higher. He also said the Ukrainian government is ready for negotiations with Russia to bring an end to the ongoing conflict. He added Russia will conquer Kyiv after killing all of the Ukrainian fighters and live in a world without them. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said today that Russia might use chemical weapons following its invasion of Ukraine and that such a move could be a war crime. Also, the United States have approved an additional $200 million in arms and equipment for Ukraine, administration officials said yesterday, responding to urgent requests from President Zelensky for more aid to stave off the Russian invasion. The latest arms package, which officials say includes Javelin anti-tank missiles and Stinger anti-aircraft missiles, follows a $300 million arms package that the Biden administration approved last month. Altogether, the administration has authorized $1.2 billion in weapons for Ukraine in the past year, officials said. More than 2.5 million people have so far fled Ukraine because of Russia's invasion in what the UN has called the fastest growing refugee crisis since World War II. It estimates that number may reach 4 million if Russia's military offensive, which has included widespread bombing of civilian areas, continues. Soaring commodity prices, sweeping financial sanctions, and the potential for a ban on energy imports from Russia after it invaded Ukraine are threatening to hobble a global economy still weakened by the COVID-19 pandemic. On both sides of the Atlantic, inflation is at levels that have not been seen for decades and still rising. Global stock markets are still wilting and the dollar is surging against other currencies as investors rush for the safety of US assets. Economists are increasingly warning of a possible bout of stagflation, particularly in Europe, a situation of high inflation and low growth that afflicted major economies during the 1970s. Europe, with its geographical proximity to the conflict and heavy dependence on Russian energy, is potentially facing its third recession in 2 years. The US economy is likely to fare better given its role as the world's top oil producer and still sizable household savings. But even in the United States, surging inflation is likely to weigh on consumer spending and growth. At the heart of the latest bout of uncertainty is Russia, the world's 11th largest economy and a crucial energy supply to much of Europe. Western nations have in recent days imposed the most sweeping economic sanctions against a major country in recent decades. In Russia, economists predict an economic contraction of as much as 10%, which the nation has not experienced since the 1990s. The initial shock is likely to be followed by a prolonged period of low growth or stagnation as Russia is pushed into economic isolation. The Ukraine war could reduce Eurozone economic growth by as much as 2 percentage points. Western sanctions on Russian businesses, companies voluntarily cutting ties, and the deep recession in Russia will severely reduce Eurozone exports to Russia. The conflict is also putting fresh strains on stretched global supply chains and pushing up prices for Europe's export-focused manufacturing companies. Auto companies are throttling production amid a lack of wiring harnesses and other components. The war will also weigh on household spending through higher prices and greater uncertainty.
Well, from the Ukraine update, shifting a little bit towards the local update. Well, Clifford, now we have been witnessing a global oil price hike. Now that has had a major impact on many countries, including Sri Lanka. Now this impact has actually gradually increased. They're planning to increase the bus fares as well, I think, by midnight today. You have more updates on that?
Now, in fact, the bus associations were demanding a price hike, and also the general public a little concerned and not very happy about the price increase. But however, finally, well, we have Minister Dilum Amunugama, who says that bus fares will be amended from midnight tomorrow, with the increase of oil prices, of course. And he said that bus associations agreed to amend fares with a minimum impact to the people. Well, in fact, a discussion took place today with the participation of the Transport Ministry officials and representatives of the bus associations on how to maintain public transport services with amendments to bus fares. It was emphasized that giving a long-term fuel subsidy is not practical. Accordingly, the minister said that discussions took place on amending bus fares. The minister said that the amendment will be presented to the cabinet tomorrow, and probably it will come into effect tomorrow night. It will be done at minimum amount possible. The amendment is expected to provide an amount that will make it possible to operate buses without losses. It is expected to increase the minimum fare by 2 rupees, he said.
අපි සංශෝධනය කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ අල වශයෙන් අවම ගාස්තු රුපියල් 2කින් විතර වැඩි වීමේ වගේ තත්ත්වයක් තමයි අපි හදන විදිහට තියෙන්නේ. අවම ගාස්තුව සංශෝධනය කරනවා වගේම දුර යන ඒ වගේ සංශෝධිත මුදල අරකට වැඩිය අඩුවෙන් එන ක්‍රමවේදයක් අපි සකස් කරන්න කියලා තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, our reporters said that a lesser number of buses were operated today. They said that there were less number of buses at the private bus stand at Gunasingapura in Colombo.
Well, strengthening the ties between our neighbouring countries is very important, and with regards to this, our Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa is scheduled to visit India next week to strengthen the ties between India and Sri Lanka. What is the update on that, Clifford?
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of positive outcomes of his meeting with the officials. Well, the Indian government, in fact, says that the economic cooperation between Sri Lanka and India will further be enhanced with the tour of Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa. The Indian High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, in a Twitter message, has said that the Finance Minister is scheduled to arrive in India. Well, the Twitter message of the Indian High Commissioner said that they are keen to welcome the Finance Minister to India. It is reported that the Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa is scheduled to leave for India next month to sign agreements to get a loan to purchase essential food items, medicines needed by Sri Lanka.
Well, the ministerial subcommittee established in connection with the future economic path has commenced discussions under the patronage of Minister Professor G.L. Peris.
Moving on with more local stories. Well, State Minister Shahan Semasinghe says that all measures will be taken to strengthen the economy of the country. He said that the public will be informed about those measures in due course. Well, the State Minister Shahan Semasinghe said that several international financial associations have looked at Sri Lanka in a very positive manner. The chairman of the Asian Development Bank has in fact agreed to further provide financial facilities to Sri Lanka during his official tour. He said that the government expects to work in cooperation with other financial institutions, including the International Monetary Fund, in the future.
Well, the ministerial subcommittee established in connection with the future economic path has commenced discussions under the patronage of Minister Professor G.L. Peris.
Ministerial subcommittees were appointed last month to discuss economic affairs with China, Japan and Middle East countries. The subcommittees met on the 9th and 10th at the Parliament complex for the first time, headed by Minister Professor G.L. Peris. The committees were appointed according to a cabinet paper submitted by Minister Basil Rajapaksa under the theme Economy and Forward March 2022. The aim is to identify alternative items with the countries that import essential food, raw materials and industrial goods, targeting exports. The committees were briefed on the proposed China-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreements. The committees agreed to take future steps following discussions with relevant stakeholders. The President has instructed to generate 5,000 megawatts of power through renewable energy sources within next 6 years and to add it to the national grid. Government's Chief Whip Minister Johnston Fernandez said that the Cabinet has approved an investment by the Indian Adani Group for renewable energy generations. The Adani Group is expected to invest more on renewable energy projects in future.
Well, moving on to more local stories now, Vidhu. The COVID-19 situation in Sri Lanka. Talking of the COVID-19 situation, I think the Sri Lankan government and the health authorities have been really commended locally as well as internationally on how they managed the situation. And of course, it's not only the government and the health authorities, but also us, the public. We also have a very responsible role to play. And that's exactly why, in fact, the Deputy Director of Health Services, Dr. Hemantha Hera, was emphasizing the need on the booster, right? So that will definitely protect yourself and also your family members and also your children. Now, talking of children, there is, in fact, a great enthusiasm by parents to send their children to school, but also there is a specialist who really emphasizes that aspect.
Absolutely, Clifford. Now, this COVID-19 outbreak has definitely delayed so many education, and education is a must for children and bringing them at homes. Yes, it is good, but at the same time it's a must that they should be taken to schools, and especially I think with regards to this, government has been taking necessary measures, and Dr. Channa has emphasized on this particular issue, isn't it?
Yeah. Now let's listen to a specialist as to what he has to say about the situation. Pediatrician at the Lady Ridgeway Children's Hospital, Dr. Channa De Silva, urges the parents to send their children with no COVID-19 symptoms, of course, to schools tomorrow, as the academic activities were delayed due to the prevailing outbreak in the country. He made these remarks while speaking to media today.
So when the school started and all the children in the classroom coming to schools, there's a chance of 1 or 2 children becoming positive because the disease is still in the community, but the levels are spreading in a very, very low state. Though we have, as parents, and we have 2 social responsibilities. First thing is, if our child have some respiratory symptoms or flu-like symptoms, or if they are contacts of COVID-19 or any family member having the disease, don't send these children to schools till they completely recover with the disease. The next responsibility is to give immunization that protect your child as well as protect other children in the class as well. If a child found to have the disease, if this student come to school, so then other children might be contacts, but the Ministry of Health has released very, very clear guidelines, so there is no need to close all the classroom, all the grade. Only the few children who have the very close contact might need quarantine, but other activities, the usual schooling and the classroom activities can be continued. So all these things are made to continue the usual, the education process, and while accumulating many evidences about the disease spread and the nature of this virus, how it's act, what's the behavior of these viruses. Now we have very good idea about the current situation. So because of that, it's very important to adhere to the guidelines issued by the Health Ministry. No need to have unnecessary panic. It's very natural to have children with disease because still the disease is in the community, but we urge as pediatricians to the parents, send your child to schools because the children have lost many of their opportunities. If by chance, if your child develop the disease, the good thing is the children, when they develop the disease, the very chance of developing complications, COVID pneumonia, very low. Usually it's less than 1%, and the mortality is also very low. So even though they develop the disease, so most of the time they recover without any problem, unlike in adults. But the prevention is better always. So because of that, still encourage your child to wear a face mask, continue healthcare measures, always give the examples by following all these by the parents. So if we continue these methods for another couple of months, very soon we would be able to completely get rid of these situations and finally normalize into situations before 2020.
Well, the Ambalipedia paper factory that has been closed for several years is now going to recommence, and this story is with regards to that. Productions of the Ambalipedia paper company will recommence tomorrow under the patronage of Minister S.B. Senanayake. With the opening of the company that had been closed down for several years, about 2,000 will get new employment opportunities. It is expected to produce about 75,000 metric tons of paper annually. The agreement to reopen the paper factory was signed with Korean's packing company at the Industries Ministry under the patronage of Minister S.B. Senanayake.
We're now going to focus a little bit on the economic situation in the country, and so many expressions, so many people making various views about the economic situation that we have in our country, including the opposition. And it's very encouraging when we have the opposition giving constructive feedback and also constructive criticism as well. So in fact, the JVP member, Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa, expresses his views during a media briefing about the present economic situation of the country. Well, Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa says that the prices of oil of all goods have been increased due to the increase of dollar from 202 to 260. First, the IOC increased oil price. Thereafter, Petroleum Corporation increased the fuel prices. The price of goods increased due to the increase of oil prices, along with the increase of the dollar, he says.
Well, from the JVP, now the SJB also has expressed their views with regards to the political concerns in Sri Lanka. Now, MP Sarath Fonseka says that good governance government could not build the country in unity by understanding problems of the people. He said that the government leaders of that time spent the time only criticizing each other. He mentioned this during Samagi Janabala Vega meeting at Polgahawela. The meeting took place at Polgahawela Urban Council Hall. A group of people, including parliamentarians and regional representatives of Samagi Janabala Vega, attended the meeting. MP Sarath Fonseka said that a group of selected people are with them by dropping the thieves in the UNP. The good governance government did not do any good to the country towards the end. Problems related to bond scam and other allegations were levelled. Finally, the same political path was taken which was not cleaned. Maitri Ranil launched vocal attacks at each other.
Well, moving on with related stories, SLFP Monaragala District Conference took place today under the patronage of former President Maithripala Sirisena. Well, the conference took place with the attendance of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party Monaragala District representatives of the Buttala Fair premises. Ministers and senior party members were present on this occasion. SLFP leader Maithripala Sirisena said that they travelled to each district to strengthen the party. He said that they do not participate to form a national government or try to establish a government or to get power. However, he said that they have studied the policies of SWRD Bandaranaike and Sirimao Bandaranaike, which strengthened the economy and won the international community as a party that ruled the country.
Well, on the same note, now there has been another new party that has been formed. Former provincial governor Peshla Jayaratne says that a new party was launched as people's expectations and aspirations are not met by Sri Lanka Freedom Party. He mentioned this while attending the function to open the Batik party office of New Sri Lanka Freedom Party. The New Sri Lanka Freedom Party has been established, a group who resigned from Sri Lanka Freedom Party. The members say they set up the new party due to various influences from the chairman of Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Maithripala Sirisena. The new party office was opened under the patronage of former Minister Jeevan Kumaratunga and former Governor Peshla Jayaratne. National organizer of New Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Peshla Jayaratne, said that the present SLFP leader is always implementing his agenda. Without taking forward the party, he is trying to move forward through conspiracies. There was no program during his time for development.
Well, from politics, we are now moving on to weather. You like rain or the sun?
Well, I think I like it depends.
Okay, it depends. I'm sure all of us are looking forward to rain, particularly because the heat is unbearable, and number two, very importantly, because hydropower can definitely ease the energy crisis to a certain extent.
Well, on that note, the Met Department says rains or thunder showers can occur in Sabaragamuwa, southwestern and central provinces.
Well, rains of more than 75 millimeters can occur in certain areas, they say. The Met Department says that the rain could occur in the eastern and Uva provinces. The department has requested the public to take precautions to minimize accidents by strong winds and lightning accompanied by thunder showers. The Pimburattava and Maduroya reservoirs are overflowing due to heavy rains. The reservoirs provide water to cultivate 2,500 hectares of paddy during both seasons. The Mahawali authorities said that it would be possible to get water for the Yala season this time without any obstacle.
Well, a new Buddha statue was unveiled today, and our next story is with regards to that. The new Buddha statue built at Kalanimulla Sadaham Sisila Buddhist Centre was unveiled today under the patronage of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The height of statue is 22 feet. It was unveiled by the chairman of Kotikavatta, Mulleriyawa Pradeshiya Sabha Jagat Kumara. The Prime Minister made the first offering of flowers to the new Buddha statue. The religious ceremony has been organised in connection with the 50th birthday of Chief Prelate Venerable Attaragama Panyalankara Thera. The Prime Minister offered a gold-plated casket to be placed inside the Ranamiru Mahasaya, which is being built at the Buddhist Centre. The Prime Minister presented Samaja Abhiman honorary title to those who contributed to build the centre. The Mahasangha, including Venerable Muruttatwe Ananda Thera, were present on the occasion.
Vidhu, I'm sure you're a very fashion-conscious person. What do you think about batik attire?
Well, I think batik has been a new talked about topic these days, Clifford, and batik attire is, I think it's something cultural,
Yeah,
in our culture in Sri Lanka.
And with all the challenges, with all the economic challenges that we talk about and we complain about, now if you really look around, there are ways and means of getting out of this situation, because Sri Lanka has a lot of opportunities. So one such example is the batik industry. Well, in fact, we are now going to bring you the feature Abhiyoga Mada Hadena Rata. In fact, this is produced by the President's Media Division, and it is today we look at the batik industry, which is developing daily. Well, the Sri Lanka Textile Institute has planned to establish batik training centers island-wide. 68 centers were opened last year. All those who trained at the centers have become talented entrepreneurs. There was an excellent batik industry in Sri Lanka, but gradually it faded away. When the present government came into power, it wanted to rebuild the industries that were closed down. A proposal was made to use batik textiles for the government functions. Steps have been taken to dress up the elephants of the Sri Darada Maligaon procession in batik creations. It has become possible to enter the international market by recommencing those creations. The batik industry has entered into a new path, strengthening the economy of the country while protecting the identity of Sri Lanka. It is a duty of everyone in the country to add strength for the benefit of the batik industry. Well, moving on with local stories. Well, the hrline shipping service. It's definitely great news, because the hrline shipping service has in fact commenced its operations as the first shipping line of the Jayabahalu terminal of the Colombo harbour after controlling the COVID-19 pandemic.
HR Herrera container ship of the company arrived at Jayabahalu terminal recently. HR Herrera ship under the Bangladesh flag can carry 1,550 containers. HR line service has recommenced as a feeder service between Colombo and Chittagong, and 2 ships have been deployed for the service. The shipping company has planned to add 2 additional ships with the forthcoming festive season. A ceremony to welcome HR Herrera ship had been organized at Jayabahalu terminal. It was held under the patronage of Bangladesh High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, Tariq Mohammad Ariful Islam, and Chairman of Sri Lanka Port Authority, Dr. Prasanna Jayamanna. Well, Police Special Task Force seized this morning 560 kilograms of Kerala cannabis brought in a trawler at Mankolia area in Negombo from Rameshwaram, India. The value of the cannabis stock is more than 80 million rupees.
Well, the raid has been conducted on a tip-off received by the commanding officer of Kadawatha Gonahena Special Task Force, SP Sylvester Vijay Singha. The investigations has been conducted for 6 months, deploying intelligence officers. The 2 suspects arrested in connection with the racket, which had been conducted for a long time, are residents of Negombo. The suspects and the cannabis stock have been handed over to the Anti-Narcotics Bureau. Well, moving on, the Additional Secretary to the Ministry of Home Affairs, K.D. Dharmatilaka says that a circular will be issued next week stating that each person who applies to get a permit to cut trees should plant a tree, he says. He mentioned this to media following a function in Kegol. Well, moving on, the Kegol National Savings Bank has organized a ceremony to distribute coconut and mee saplings under the theme Gasak Sitawamu in connection with the 50th anniversary of the bank. So we have a connected item, planting of trees, and now
Correct.
we're talking of fertilizer. Well, there were so many complaints that people had about the negativity they had created about not being able to use organic fertilizer for successful cultivation. But we have exceptions, and we're going to tell you such story.
Certainly, Clifford. Now, it's always that we should take up the opportunity, rather than complaining, about certain things. So now, with regards to this story, it has been possible to get a successful harvest from the vegetables cultivated in secured houses in the Kurunegala district.
Well, the farmers said that they were able to earn an income of 100,000 rupees during one season. The cultivation has been done according to organic fertilizer program of a toxin-free country. Well, in fact, 300 farmers in the district have joined this program, and the aim is to increase organic culture and also the production and to continuously maintain vegetable production during the off-season. Now, here's a fine example. A woman in Valimada Nadungamu village has maintained a successful vegetable, fruit and flower cultivation using only organic fertilizer and liquid organic fertilizer. She has maintained flower cultivation, a self-employment project, and taken to organic vegetable and fruit cultivation with the COVID pandemic. She said that she earns a high income through her cultivation. So that's remarkable. That's remarkable. So this is definitely, Vidu, a good message to all people engaged in agriculture, because it can be done. It can be done, and also it has to be done to safeguard our environment. Because as you know, over the years, the use of chemical fertilizer has had a huge impact on the environment. So that's exactly why the government and also the Minister and the Ministry of Agriculture is highlighting the use of organic fertilizer, which has definitely become a success, and it is up to the farmers and people involved in agriculture to use it and to discover the benefits of it.
Definitely, Clifford. Now, from fertilizer, we're shifting a little bit towards more local news reports. The 25th anniversary ceremony of Sri Lanka Muslim Journalist Association took place yesterday. Minister Dallas Alhaperima was the chief guest of the function. The minister was handed over with a copy of a report compiled by the association together with other media organizations on job security and salaries.
Right, with that we are moving on to the upcoming Vesak season. Now, how will the restrictions, or how allowable will it be for the celebration of the Vesak festival? Well, the news is that permission has been given to display Vesak pandals in the Colombo district, and the district secretary Pradeep Yasaratna said that the relevant activities have to be conducted according to the health guidelines. Well, it was not possible to hold ceremonies, including religious functions, as usual for about 3 years due to the Easter Sunday attack and also the spread of the COVID. A large group of people making a livelihood by erecting and displaying pandals. They have requested to give them permission in this regard. District Secretary Pradeep Yasaratna said that permission has been given this year after sending their request to the Health Ministry Secretary and the Director General of Health Services.
Well, we now bring you some more local news reports. The 25th anniversary ceremony of Sri Lanka Muslim Journalist Association took place yesterday. Minister Dallas Alhaperima was the chief guest of the function. The minister was handed over with a copy of a report compiled by the association together with other media organizations on job security and salaries of journalists in Sri Lanka. A group of people, including Indian Lok Sabha member Nawaz Khani, were present on the occasion. The newspaper film has won the award for the best film in Asia at Bangalore International Film Festival. Minister Bandula Gunawardena produced the film and it was directed by Sarath Kotalavala and Kumara Tirimadura. An exhibition of artist Dr. H.A. Karunaratna is being held at Gallery for Life Arts Gallery in Thimbirigasyaya. The Japanese embassy organized the exhibition in connection with the 70th anniversary Japan-Sri Lanka friendship.
Well, moving on, communication. It's a very important tool. There are very many ways of communicating, verbal communication. And also, here is another very unique way of communicating, and that is using art. Now, art can depict many aspects. It can even bring out feelings of the person.
This is about a young woman who went in searching new versions of art. Canvas is our life. We can release any thought that comes to our mind on the canvas. If we can do something creative without just drawing an art, we can definitely create a new world by thinking in a new way. Sashintha Dilhani, who is a teacher at Gaul Avittava Nalanda Mahavidyalaya, lives at a remote village in Alpitia, Talagaspe area. She is a graduate of Aesthetic University and teaches the art subject in the school syllabus. She also guides the children to make new creations. I had the opportunity to teach online with the COVID pandemic. I was able to see the children through the arts they drew. It was not possible to go out of the homes during the recent past. They did not draw arts with happiness. There were drawings which had been drawn speedily. The drawings showed the unease mentality with colors, lines and color temperature. She is an arts teacher and likes more to draw 3D arts. She has become popular over social media. She provides a knowledge to the children free of charge. By looking at the arts, we can say whether they are sad, happy and what was their mental condition. Arts are such a wonderful medium. Well, with that, we have foreign news coming up next.
Welcome back to the news, and we take a look at news overseas in detail now. Heading into Saudi Arabia. Well, Saudi Arabia says it executed 81 men yesterday. Well, more than during the whole of last year. Well, some were charged with belonging to the Islamic State group and also Al-Qaeda or the Houthi rebels in Yemen. Well, the group, including 7 Yemenis and 1 Syrian national, were convicted of multiple heinous crimes, including terrorism, according to Saudi Arabia media reports. Rights organizations have indicated that many suspects are not given fair trials in Saudi Arabia, an allegation the Saudi government rejects. The latest group had been tried by 13 judges and gone through a 3-stage judicial process. They were accused of plotting attacks on vital economic targets, killing or targeting members of the security forces, kidnapping, torture, rape and smuggling weapons into the country. Saudi Arabia has one of the highest execution rates in the world, 5th in a list of compiled by Amnesty International. The other 4 being China, Iran, Egypt and Iraq. It had executed 69 people last year.
Welcome back and moving on to some sports update. Well, sports is very important in our day-to-day lives, and definitely our ministry does so many things to improve our sporting facility in Sri Lanka. And with regard to this connection, we have Sri Lanka Army and Air Force, where they had the rowing competition.
Have you given it a try, rowing? No?
I would love to.
Okay, right. Sri Lanka Army and the Air Force became co-champions of the 37th Junior and Intermediate Rowing Championship. Well, the competition took place in Colombo. Well, the Sri Lanka Army won the Junior Women's Rowing Championship by winning 4 gold medals. The Air Force and the Army won the Men's Co-Championships with 2 gold medals each. Another College Colombo was adjudged the best boys school team of the competition, winning 5 golds. The Colombo Ladies College won the Women's Championship with 7 golds. INSU Shooting Championship ended yesterday at Sri Lanka Shooting Range at Panama. 160 shooters belonging to 16 sports clubs, 3 armed forces and police took part in the competition. Sri Lanka Army A team won the first place of the scope category and the open category. The Kandy team is leading the bonus points list of the Interclub Rugby Championship. They beat Army yesterday. The match was played at the Havelock grounds in Colombo. Kandy won the match 21-17. And with that action, it's time to end the news. Yeah. So do enjoy the rest of the programs. Take care and
Good night.
Good night.